Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast Betting Show. It is week 2. Week 1 is in the books. It was exciting. Had everything we wanted. Lots of different things to maybe some people are expecting, and lots of different running backs playing out of position and things like that. But here we are at week 2. An interesting week I find for betting, because I think a lot of people are going to be on the bandwagons, out on teams, and I think that's going to serve up some really, really good odds for us for week 2, because I think people are going to be back to the normal and play a bit better. Adam, do you agree with that? Do you think week 2 is a better betting week than week 1?
I think it looks hard. I have to say, there's a lot of low sort of on the over under is quite low this week, and it feels like a lot of these games are going to be quite close. And we saw, didn't we, last week that the amount of touchdown scorers, certainly in the 6 p.m. games, it was quite low, the scores, and yeah, I think it could be quite difficult, this one.
We've already got one game in the books for week 2. The Eagles played last night against the Vikings. Sky, I know you've caught up with the game now and seen it all. How did you feel about that? I know you had a bet on it and it nearly came in as well. So,
yeah, 2 catches from Smith away from 360. It was a good bet, but for anyone who's obviously watching, it was all on Hockenson and Smith, and as we know, they both had big games. I think the Eagles got lucky is going to be harsh, but for Kirk Cousins to throw 4 touchdowns, 0 picks, and obviously had the touchback with Jefferson in the end zone, and I think Eagles were lucky to get away with a few mistakes again. And as we said before the show, Andrew, I think if they were playing anyone other than the Patriots, who are all defense, and the Vikings, who are offense, maybe they're against 2 other teams, the Eagles might be 0-2 right now, but still credit to them for pulling through and undefeated for now.
Yeah, I remember years ago when we first started this, me and Freddie used to say that if you can win games ugly, you're usually in the conversation for the Super Bowl. And I think that seems to be the case for the Eagles at the moment, because it hasn't looked great for them. They need to sort something out on both the defensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator, I believe in. And then they've got the players there, so it should click. So they're very lucky to have scraped through the first 2 weeks with 2 victories. But we will jump straight in to the betting for week 2. So let's take a look. So the first game we've got up on Sky Sports is the Chiefs versus the Jags. So I'm going to come to you, Adam, first. You want to talk us through how you feel this game's going to go?
Yeah, I think this one is probably, I reckon it's probably the most exciting game of the weekend to be out of what's there. There's a lot of games are low scores. This one, the over/unders at 51. The spread is at -3.5 in the Chiefs' favour. To me, I think this is going to be one of the most exciting games. I really like the over. I think that you're going to get a lot of points in this game. I think we saw last week with the Jags that they're capable of putting up 30 points in a game, and I think they're going to be able to do that in pretty much any game this season with the talent that they have. And the Chiefs, with Kelsey meant to be coming back, they've got Chris Jones back on the defense as well, which will help them out a little bit. I think you would expect this team again to kind of start getting back to how they were before last week.
Adam, do you have a team that you favour to win this one? Is there someone that you actually think is gonna pip it? Is it a coin toss? Did you see enough from both teams week 1?
I thought the Jags did really well. I thought the Chiefs were probably missing their 2 best players, which was the reason why they lost, but they only lost by 1 point. So I think that you've got 2 good teams going up against each other. 2 teams that this is a matchup that you would expect in the playoffs on the AFC side, I think. So, yeah, I mean, you've got 2. I think it could go either way. Maybe Jacksonville might be able to do something here just purely because they're at home. And I just think also this has happened before with the Chiefs, hasn't it? Sometimes they take a few weeks to get going. So I do wonder if if that might be why I'd lean slightly towards Jacksonville, and certainly with the +3.5.
Yeah, definitely. I was saying I'd probably lean towards that +3.5 as well. I think it might come down to that field goal. Now, Adam hates betting on the Chiefs. He doesn't like the odds when it comes to betting on the player props for this because he never knows where it's going. Me, on the other hand, and Sky, you're probably very similar. I love betting on the Chiefs because you can get great odds on everyone, but it is pot luck whether you get the right one on the right week. So, Sky, do you want to talk us through who you think could be the potential anytime touchdown scorers, or
yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, good news for the Chiefs that Kelsey seems like he's ready to go. I don't know. No, he won't be a decoy, will he? But I mean, does this mean that it create? I know obviously people were laughing at some of the drops that the receivers had against the Lions, but having Kelsey there, as we know last season, it just opens up so much for those other weapons. So I mean, maybe this is the week that Tony or Sky Moore shut up the haters and one of them get the first touchdown.
Yeah. Which one?
I don't know. Take your flip.
Well, no, that's the point. You have to pick one.
Sky Moore, because we know Sky is a great name. So let's go with Sky Moore.
I mean, I probably would have gone for Tony based on the snap count and the amount.
Yeah, I know. I've had that.
Something obviously clicked in preseason and training camp with Tony, that enough for them to keep going down there when it wasn't working. So I think they'll probably go, maybe it was an off game and they might stick to it. I haven't seen enough from Sky Moore for me for his career there. But yeah, do we not like Rashee Rice? Adam, are you in on there?
No, I don't like anything on the Chiefs side. It's going to be Kelsey. That is literally all it. Yeah. I did put Bell down just purely if Kelsey wasn't playing, but now that Kelsey is playing, that will be him gone. Yeah, nothing. I have nothing on the Chiefs side.
I have a Jags player in 150-1 bet builder.
Of course you do.
Do you want me to tell you about it?
Please do.
Yes.
So ETN to score any time. It's only, Adam will be pleased with this. It's not like my Thursday night football bet, which was 8 things. It was 4, but one of them is laughable now that Kelsey is. So this was placed before it was announced. So I've got him to get a touchdown, Ridley to have 50 or more receiving yards, Pacheco to have 57.5 on the over for rushing and receiving. And the reason that the odds are there is because neither team will score 20 points.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, is it?
19-16 Chiefs. Sky's in the money.
It looked like Calvin Ridley seems to be back. Seems to be the go-to guy. Do you like those odds at 7-4, Adam? Is that something, we said similarly, I think, with Tyreek Hill when he's at these odds? I think when you see Calvin Ridley and how he played week 1, those odds are really appealing.
Yeah, I think certainly on the Jag side, Ridley at 7-4 is a decent price. And I also like Zay Jones as well at 12-5 in this one. I think that we saw last week, and we saw it last year as well, how much Zay Jones got involved. But also, he got a lot of targets week 1, and Christian Kirk didn't. He kind of was very quiet and didn't really get targeted much at all. So I like both of them, but yeah, Ridley is a big price, I think, at 7-4, and I don't quite know what the bookies are missing here, and unless they're just thinking it's a one-off last week. But I just think that come the middle of the season, I think you're going to be seeing like even money, 21-20, that sort of price for Ridley. So yeah, 7-4 is decent.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was saying at the top of the show. I think you're going to get week 2, you're going to get some really good odds, because I think people are really unsure of whether it was a fluke, whether to get on the bandwagon, whether to get off the bandwagon. And I think this is where you're going to get some good odds. So I think that's one of them there that we've highlighted that I think is a bit of a no-brainer. I'm going to move on to the next game. Has anyone got any really big odds they had for this that they want to talk about, or are you happy for me to move on to game 2?
Nothing
No,
other. Yeah, not my 150 to 1 is as ridiculous as we'll get.
Right, so game 2, the televised game is. It had the chance to be a good game, but I think this might be another blowout. It's the Cowboys at the Jets. I'm going to come to you first, Sky. What are your thoughts on this game? Who do you think's winning it? Which one of those odds do you like? Do you like the over, the under, the spread?
I mean, I would have loved to know. Well, we won't know because obviously he got hurt on the 4th play. But what would the odds would have been if the Jets had won and Aaron Rodgers was under center? But yeah, I think everybody's going with the Cowboys, right? I think just because of them getting 40 last week, the over is still tempting because I think even though the offense wasn't, didn't need to do much, we've seen what the defense can do, and Pollard looked great. So the only question mark on the Cowboys, I don't think it will affect them in terms of winning the game, but it'll be interesting when we look at the anytime odds for the players, because I had a brief look earlier, is that Brandon Cooks is potentially might not play. So that could open up some obviously interesting odds for whoever slots in there. But yeah, I like the Cowboys, and I think there's potential there for them to put up a lot of points again.
Yeah, I think it is. I think initially when I'm looking at this game, I'm thinking Cowboys just repeat what they did against the Giants. But the Jets defense did look good. And we know what Dak Prescott's like when the secondary is good. So there could be some interceptions and some points that side. I just think that front 7 of the Cowboys is just going to dominate. Yeah. And I think Zach Wilson is not as good as Daniel Jones, so he's going to get absolutely mauled, I think, in this game. Adam, who do you like for the touchdowns?
Not many, to be brutally honest. I quite like the under in this one. I don't think you're going to see much at all, to be honest, in this game. As you said, the Cowboys didn't have to do much against the Giants in order to win. I don't think they're going to have to do. I think they're going to have to do a bit more, but I don't think they're going to have to do that much more, because I just feel like that Jets defense is going to end up getting worn out. That's the problem that they're going to have. Anyone who watched any of that Jets game, no one can say that Zach Wilson had a good game in that game. And that touchdown that Garrett Wilson got was all Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson. So I don't think you're going to see much here. I quite like Pollard at 5 to 6, but it's not really something I want to get too excited about. Ferguson at 3 to 1, I think could be. Mm-hmm. I feel like he's a guy who's going to get a lot of targets from Dak, and we've seen with Dak over the history of him playing for the Cowboys, he always goes for the tight end quite often. So I think Ferguson's the one to go for there at 3 to 1. And then the only one on the Jets side that I like the look of is Breece Hall at 13 to 5, just because I think Zach Wilson can't affect him that much as he's the running back, to be honest. That's about all it is. But I think they're going to struggle to put up points now. And you can see that the bookies think the same, because Garrett Wilson was 6 to 4 to score last week. He's now 11 to 4 this week. And yeah, I just, with Zach Wilson there, I don't see anything positive.
Yeah, I'd struggle to actually pinpoint which one I think is going to get in the end zone, and the odds don't look overly favourable all the way down to Dak, really. So yeah, I don't really like any of the odds for this one. It's what I'll probably steer away, and I'll probably be looking at the over and the unders and the spreads on this one. Sky, are you in that way, or is there someone you really like for this one?
I think just depending on, obviously, if Cooks doesn't play, then you might then look at someone like Michael Gallup, but it just depends if it happens or not. But like Adam said, I think the obvious ones are Pollard and Hall, because they even come out today saying that Hall's still going to be on a snap count. But I mean, he was over 100 yards against the Bills. So I think that's just smoke and mirrors, really. I think we know this offense is going to go through him now. So yeah, I like Hall. I like Pollard. And again, agree with Ferguson. I think he was talked up quite a bit last year. Things out of Wisconsin, good tight end, and as he gets more snaps and more familiar, I think he could become Dak's go-to. So if you can get him at the odds he's at now, before that, I feel like we probably agreed that, you know, inevitably that's going to happen. There is going to be a tight end in this offense who Dak will need to rely on. I think the 3-1 anytime is pretty good if you're looking to add that into a bet.
Yeah, the only one I like as a bit of an outsider and a bit of a gamble is Kevontae Turpin. Obviously, last year he was Pro Bowler on the special teams for his returning ability. And I just think with how special he is when you get the ball in his hands, there might be an opportunity, like you say, with Cooks out, that they might want to try and get Turpin involved in that offense more than special teams a bit more. And at 5-1, I think it might be worth a gamble. But it might be one to watch for the season he is, because I think he's a real special talent and could get involved a bit more. But don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that one.
I have no thoughts on him.
Sky, you missed this. So last year, when I went through it every week with Adam, I pluck out these names and he'd be like, I don't know what you're on about. Who is this guy?
He scored a touchdown, didn't he, against you guys?
No one scored any touchdowns. What are you on about? He scored a rushing touchdown, didn't he? Yeah, but he didn't get any receiving ones.
But I think so. The other person who I should have mentioned was Jalen Tolbert. I don't think he got any catches, but he was being talked up in the off season. They were saying that he'd made it. So I think, like you said, Turpin's someone like that could step up if Cooks doesn't play. And I think because of obviously the way it was 40-0 against the Giants, we haven't really seen what this offense is going towards. I know we've said run heavy in the off season, but as maybe not in this game, but as the season goes on, there could be a surprise breakout player. So yeah, who knows? If you got a touchdown on Sunday,
keep your eye on him.
Keep your eye on him.
Be there.
Look at Adam.
Because they usually come in, don't they, Adam, when they come up with these wild players, shaking his head.
Only when they're Jordan Akins. That's the only one that comes in.
I don't know. I had Ben Skoranek one week that came in at real big odds.
That's true, you did. I mean, you mentioned him about 6 weeks in a row, but yes, eventually he did come in.
Trenton Irwin at the Bengals that came in one week. So they're there to be had. Right, the next game. Oh, it's an interesting one. Who to go for first with this one? Because one of us supports the team.
I'd go with Adam if you want an unbiased fair opinion on this one.
Adam, start us off. Who do you like in this game? Where do you like the points? What do you think about it?
I like the under in this one at 46.5. I think the under is what's going to happen. The Dolphins last week, obviously against the Chargers, I know they got 36 points, but they were playing against a team whose defense is just not good enough. I'm afraid the Chargers, they're going to really struggle if they carry on like that. So I think the Patriots will be able to slow them down quite a bit. So I do like the under at that. When it comes to the Dolphins, I just Tyreek Hill again. He's over even money, so at 21-20, I really like him. And then on the Patriots side, the Dolphins are not great at defending the run, and I felt like they didn't do particularly well against defending the run against the Chargers, and they certainly weren't amazing last year. So Stevenson, obviously at 6-5, is an interesting one. And then if Mac Jones decides that he wants to play like he did last week, which was, a miracle in itself, then Hunter Henry at 11-5 is the bigger price one to go for. So they're the guys that I kind of like. But the one that I really like is Hill because he's over even money again. I think the Dolphins win it, but I think it's going to be very close.
Yeah, the Patriots defense is definitely better than what they would have faced last week. I think I said before the season started that Staley should probably get fired this year. You know, he's a defensive coordinator by hand, and the defense didn't do its job in the last 2 minutes yet again. They always find a way to lose. Sky, do you think your Patriots can do it? Do you think they can cover the, 3.5, was it?
3.
3. Do you think they can cover that, or do you think Miami are going to turn up again?
I think we've got. I know Adam laughed at me last week when I said Patriots Eagles would be close. I think we've got a good chance of winning this game at home. I mean, you know, I'm a man for facts that are probably not relevant because this is 22 years ago. But the Patriots haven't started 0-2 since 2001. So surely, I think we've got a good chance in terms of the touchdowns. I like Kendrick Bourne because I think, you know, he had a good game against the Eagles, and I don't think it was necessarily a fluke. I think him and Henry look like the two go-tos for Matt Jones. I think Bourne's at 12-5 for the anytime, and obviously, I think him or Henry will get a touchdown. So I like that, and I've got probably it's going to sound like the most biased bet of all time, but I've got Christian Gonzalez and Kyle Duggar to get interceptions and Stevenson to score any time, 125-1. I think Tua is going to get, I don't want to say found out, but that Chargers defense was awful. And if the Patriots could perform like the way they did against Jalen Hurts, there's no reason to say that they can't force Tua into turning the ball over a couple of times.
Yeah, what are the odds if you took one of those interceptions out? Do they come down loads or?
Well, see, I've got. Let me see if I can do it now. But I've got one. Yeah, I think so. I've got one bet which took out Stevenson, and that was 65-1. So it was just a 2 pick. So I imagine if you've got the anytime and one player, you're probably looking at around 40 or 50.
I think that's well worth it. I think that's doable. I think Tua is going to be forced into some pressured throws here, and you could see the interception. So
you'll be looking at it now.
Well, I might be. But I agree. I think Hunter Henry's the one here. I think they're the odds. That's the steal of this game for them. Tyreek's a little bit shorter than I'd want him, but it's going to happen now, isn't it? It's just going to score every week. So, Adam, you should probably try and trade for him in fantasy if you haven't already, because I think you have, haven't you?
I'm always trying.
All right, the next game up is the one that Adam was shocked at it being on telly. I think it's going to be an interesting game. I like the look of it. Adam doesn't. But I'm going to come to you first, Adam, because you don't like it. It's the Saints versus the Panthers. We're lucky we've got 2 Monday night games.
Yeah.
Saints.
It's not so much that I dislike it. It's more I don't understand why it's there. That's what. Like, you've got another one on already, so I don't quite understand why we've got 2 overlapping each other. That's where I'm a bit confused. And then if you're going to have the 2, why would you have the Saints Panthers when you've got the Browns and the Steelers? That's where I'm a little bit confused. Anyway, yeah, I like the under 39.5. I don't think this is going to be a particularly high scoring game. So I do like the under at 10-11. And then, you know, the Saints are a very good defense compared. I think personally they're better than the Panthers. I think they'll do pretty well in this game and they'll slow the Panthers down. The only one on the Panthers side that I have any interest in, and it's not much interest to be brutally honest, is Hayden Hurst. I think you saw last week that he's kind of going to be the safety net for Bryce Young, and I think that he will be involved quite a bit. Whether he's going to be able to get a touchdown every week, I can't see that happening, but I think that you will get a decent price for him every week. So I do quite like Hayden Hurst. On the Saints side, I think there's a little bit more. I like Chris Olave at 7-4. I think he's always going to get a lot of targets. And then Rashid Shaheed, I think, is the guy who I quite like at the price as well, 11-4. He was involved a lot more than what I thought he was going to be involved. And it kind of feels like that's going to become a common thing. So 11-4, that's the sort of bigger priced one on the Saints side. I think the Saints will win it just because I think their defense is that little bit better. But it's not a particularly exciting game from me, and I don't really have a strong opinion on it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think when watching the game, it was the Panthers' defense that I was most disappointed with. I thought that wasn't as good as what I thought it might be. And again, you say Shaheed, which I really, really liked in this one. Adam, we seem to be on the same wavelength a lot this season already. We've done too many shows together. But especially, I don't know whether you guys have seen it. Have you seen the video that's been going around on social media of Derek Carr chatting to the head coach saying, let me go again. Let me do it again. I'm throwing it to Shahid. He's going long. He goes up to Shahid and goes, run as fast as you can down that line. You're getting the ball. And then the play plays out and he gets that big catch down the sideline. So he's obviously got a lot of trust in this guy being the downfield speedster for him. So I think you're going to see a lot of that every week now. Sky, who do you like in this one?
I like the Saints. I agree with Adam on the under. And I also agree that Olave is. I know it was obviously good to see Shahid have a good game, but it's clear that Carr and Olave have that rapport already. After he didn't get a touchdown last week, he's probably due to get one this week and could well get over 100 yards again. But yeah, I like the Saints. Like you said, I don't think the Panthers' defense was as good as people talked about. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this game it comes down to a field goal, though. Even I'm saying the Saints, I think could be similar to the Saints, sort of grinding out that win against Tennessee. Probably have to dig deep and do the same again, but I like them. And I think just looking forward for the Saints. Whilst we're saying the under now, I think if Thomas stays healthy with Shahid and Olave and then Kamara coming back, I mean, his offense has got potential later in the season. So, yeah, it could be interesting from the betting perspective as well if they have a few low-scoring games and then pieces start coming back. So it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, I love Chris Olave. I think he's one of the most exciting players to watch, but he's just involved loads in getting the ball and moving them down the field. I think last year we said he just didn't get in the end zone enough.
Yeah.
But he's in the middle of the game. It's all him, isn't it? He's just fantastic.
I just ask, because obviously you've watched a lot of Ohio State and you saw him when he was playing at Ohio. Did he struggle to get in the end zone for them? Because that's,
No.
I've not. It just seems strange that he, all the other big receivers that have come out of college don't seem to have this issue, whereas for whatever reason, Olave seems to be struggling a little bit with that.
I wouldn't say he's necessarily struggling to get in the end zone. I just don't think he's getting the targets when it gets to that point. And at Ohio State, he was used in every single option. He outplayed Garrett Wilson for a whole season and was the number one wide receiver there. And obviously, there was one season it was Wilson, Smith and Jigba and Olave, and Olave stood out for me as the better of the three for that season. So he's been the go-to guy, and you see that, like I say, moving the ball from the 20-yard line up to the end zone. It's all him. I just don't think he's in the plans for the targets at the end zone. I think that's surely it. But I think sky's wide. We will see him get in the end zone. Let's move on to the next game. I think it's got the opportunity to be an exciting one, despite the score of the first game for these teams. It's always exciting, this one. It's the Browns Steelers. There's usually a punch up or a fight or a helmet thrown. Sky, have you got any Sky Bet offers of people to get hit with helmets?
No, I don't, sadly. I looked, but there was nothing like that. But all I've looked at for this is everything related to Nick Chubb. I mean, we're talking about the new favourites to win the AFC North, right? Everyone's on the Browns hype train. The defense was amazing against the Bengals.
It was.
And, they just need a few things to click. But, Chubb's turned up against the Steelers, I think, before. I think last year I had a look in both the games. He probably had over 100 all-purpose yards in both games. And then week 17 was when they were obviously trying out the new things with the offense and got him more involved out of the backfield catching passes. And I think he got a receiving touchdown in week 17 against Pittsburgh last year. So I think he's due a touchdown. I don't know how I feel about the over or the under, so interested to hear Adam's thoughts on that. I think it could be exciting, but obviously it's two defenses which have been talked up in the offseason. And whilst I'm going towards Cleveland, I don't think I'm as passionate as I was last week saying that the Steelers had no chance against the Niners, which obviously was proved right. I think the Steelers can be more competitive this week, but mainly because they're at home.
Yeah, I'm not sold. I'm usually on the Steelers side with a lot of games, and I know it's this one always comes down to the wire, and it's very close. And there is games within the season between certain teams that it doesn't matter how well you're performing at the time, it's a coin flip. And this is usually one of them. But I just didn't see enough from the Steelers. Adam, are you the same?
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It is a bit of a coin flip. It doesn't really, as for picking the winner, doesn't really interest me that much. I do think the under is going to come off again in this one. I think a lot of these prime time games are going to be under. I don't think they're necessarily the greatest for the weekend. But yeah, so I think the under 38.5, you've got two strong defenses. Although the one thing I would say, the Steelers defense, we saw last year, cannot stop the pass. They really struggled with that. The Browns defense are appalling against the run last year. So I think that you might see that come to fruition a little bit. They've both improved a bit, but I do think you could see that again. The one that I really like in this one, Amari Cooper at 21-10 against the Steelers defense that struggles to stop passing touchdowns. And I do wonder if that, just at the price, I quite like the look of that. There isn't really a lot else in this, to be honest, for me. I think it's going to be a very strong Freddie game, which is going to be all defense. And it's just, yeah, there's not a lot here. And with Deontay Johnson not there, I think that's going to be a big loss for the Steelers.
Yeah, I think it's a big loss. But the odds look to be pointing in Sky's analysis of the game. It looks like the odds are pointing towards Nick Chubb, and Nick Chubb only, really. I think Amari Cooper's, is there, but then it's just Steelers players on the odds. So I think, heavy dose of Nick Chubb, which is what you called last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I'm sure you could tell who already is back in my treble. But maybe Deshaun Watson rushing touchdown again. I mean, obviously he got in the end zone last week. The odds aren't enough for me to go with it. I think it's 10-3. Yeah. But I did have a look at that earlier because that was a really good scramble. I think it was passing wise. He's not back to the Deshaun Watson of old yet, but it was great to see him pull off some magic on that play against the Bengals.
Yeah, I think Elijah Moore's going to be one to watch. I don't like him just yet. But I think he's one to keep an eye on. I think he's going to come into his own with the Browns. Just not 100% sure. Won't put my money on it yet, but he's one to watch definitely. Right, shall we move on to our trebles? Last week we had no winners on our trebles. Adam was the closest with 2, then me with 1, and Sky, how many did you have?
0.
0. Okay, 0. So Sky, let's start with you. What have you got for your treble?
So I've tried to be. I know the odds are the same for me this week with my treble. I'm a lot more confident. I think last week I was trying to be a bit too cute, hoping that Charbonnet was obviously going to get the start, and that didn't happen, etc. But I've got Nick Chubb in again. That's why I've been talking him up, just because historically he's performed against the Steelers, and like you said, if it's going to be a heavy dosage of him. And then you won't be surprised that Olave is in my treble, which is why I talked him up. I mean, last week, like I said, 8 catches, 112 yards. Last year against the Panthers, he also had, I think, 2 good performances from what I looked at. So historically, that makes me feel confident there. And then the third person for me is Jamal Gibbs. I think that on paper, the Seahawks, I know, I completely agree with what Adam said. A lot of games have the potential for the under, but, we saw the 48-45 last year with the Seahawks and the Lions. I wouldn't be surprised if it was high scoring again. And I think it's already been talked about in the media about them wanting to get Gibbs more involved. I think he looked like the better back against the Chiefs, just that Montgomery is obviously going to be the go-to guy in the red zone, but I still think Gibbs can get in. So yeah, Gibbs, Olave, and Chubb for me coming in at 11-1. All
right. Last week, Sky had the lowest odds of the 3 of us, and Adam had the highest odds of the 3 of us. Adam, have you got the highest odds of us again?
Well, I don't know what you've got.
Well, we'll see. Won't we? We'll go with you first.
So I had 10 players to choose from this week. I had quite a lot, and I was like, oh God, where am I going to go? So I do have a few honourable mentions, which I probably shouldn't say because they're going to get in, and I haven't included them. I do like Zay Flowers against the Bengals at 9-4. I think it's a really good price. So I like that a lot. I like Brandon Ayuk at 6-4 against the Rams. I like Sam Howell. I just think he's going to rush in all the time, isn't he? That's what he's going to do all season. It's going to be the same thing over and over again at 4-1. So I do like that. There's a few others, but the treble that I ended up going for, Anthony Richardson. I've nicked your quarterback. So going up against the Texans, I just think the Texans can't stop the run, and Richardson is going to do plenty of running in this game. So I think that's a given at 8-5. Calvin Ridley again did him last week. I think he'll do well again this week at 7-4 in a matchup that I think will be a very high scoring. And then finally, just because we always picked him last year and we didn't pick him in the first show, so we had to pick him. We've gone for Amon-Ra St. Brown for Detroit against Seattle at even money. Put them all together at 13.3-1.
Oh, Adam, I haven't got any same players as you this week.
Ooh.
And I haven't got any quarterbacks in my bet this week, which is a shock. Right. Sky, you've got a 6 o'clock bet, and then you've got to wait.
I know. I've made everyone wait.
Too late Monday night games to see if yours comes in. So there is a long wait after the early game. If that doesn't come in, wow, there's no point really. So Adam will know this, every single week I like to have a treble with the 6 o'clock games and a treble with the 9 o'clock, 9:30 games, the evening games, just so then they're all settled in one go and I'm not waiting on anything. So this week I've done the same with my bet for you guys, and I've taken all the 6 o'clock games.
Ooh.
I have taken Travis Etienne, who got a hell of a lot of snaps and ball play with the Jags going up against the Chiefs. So I think he's at 6-5. I have gone with Gibbs from the Lions. So I've got one that's the same as Sky. Really liked how he played. Was very explosive. Apparently it was tactical how much he wasn't used, just to give him a taste. So I think we're going to see loads more of him this week. And then my bit of a rogue one got 15 carries, and that's Tyler Algier. I think he's still going to be used. And as Adam always likes to say, that Falcons team just likes to run the ball and nothing else. So I think you're probably going to see Bijan and Tyler Algier, probably both, if they maybe get in the end zone. At 15-8, I like Algier's price to put in there. It came out just over 13-1, so I'm at similar odds to Adam on this one. So yeah, I'm all 6 o'clock. All running backs could be a nice little win. £72.73 off of a fiver, and then you can you've got £70 to spend on all the 9 o'clock games after you win on mine. So yeah,
I like that. I like you've got Gibbs. That makes me feel good because I'm not sure about Adams. No offense. So I'm happy with Andrews. I've said that now. Now Adams is going to win. I shouldn't have put that into the universe. But yeah, yours will come in. Then everyone will stay up on Monday and they get to see my win as well.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Sky, have you got any ridiculous ones for us? Have you, what everyone wants to stay tuned for? They want to know what's 200-1. Have you got any?
I feel like I know last week I went on a mad one with the passing yards, and they didn't come in. But I think as we joked about a lot of them, didn't we? It just wasn't. The odds were there for a reason. I've got 4 of them from Sky Bet. So we'll start with the ones that involves 2 players. So that's Raheem Mostert and Stevenson to both have over 100 rushing yards. I mean, Mostert is obviously just the RB1 for now. But he looked decent against the Chargers. And Stevenson, I think Adam shaking his head. But you spoke about the Dolphins struggling against the run. I know there's Zeke there, but Stevenson could have a big game. So if you fancy putting £1 on it, you never know. Adam's not sold. Are you, Andrew?
Of the 4 that I've seen you suggest, it was the one I liked the most of happening. So it's definitely worth £1, surely.
Yeah.
No.
What, did you like one of his other bets more?
The Patriots were tied first at stopping the run and not giving up rushing touchdowns last year. So what on earth makes you think that old man Mostert's going to get over the line against?
Fingers crossed he does.
Come on, I'm defending your defense here. So
I like that. And I said we were top 5. So now give it another week and then you'll say we're top 5.
Hopefully, just play one. He breaks through from the 20-yard line and runs the whole length and scores, or gets down at the 1, and then you're halfway there.
Or what could happen is my 2 picks coming for Gonzalez and Duggar. Stevenson will already be over 100 yards, and then we'll just have the backups in, and Mostert will get a few nice carries over 100 yards, and everyone's happy. 125 to 1 winner and a 150. There we go.
Yeah. Quids in.
The other 3, so I mean, I'll cover off 2 of them quickly. There's 40 plus match points in all of the 6, 905, 925. Now, even I don't think that's going to happen because we've all said that there's going to be a lot that are on the under. But just interesting that it's in there 125 to 1 because I've seen that bet before, and it's usually lingering in the 33 to 66s. So if it's one that people put on often because they think it could be a crazy weekend, week 2. And some wild scheming comes up from offensive coordinators, then there's that. And then we also have the each team to score a rushing touchdown in the 6 p.m. games. 200 to 1. We spoke about quarterbacks rushing. I mean, maybe, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind that one either. I think rushing touchdowns, especially once teams get to the red zone, it just seems to be trick plays and quarterbacks and heavy dose of committee backs of running backs. So I don't hate that one. It's just
I don't think there was one team in there that put me. I can't remember who it was. I think it was once I saw Aaron Jones. Did he not practice again today?
Yeah.
And it was and obviously when I sent it in the chat, I was like, "Oh, will the Packers get one?" But most of the other teams on there, I guess you could say the Chargers as well. I'd like the Texans to potentially beat the Colts, so maybe. But no, I guess because Eckler, even though Eckler's out, Joshua Kelly was good last week as well, so maybe he could sneak one. But yeah, it was the Packers putting me off of that. But I think even if you did go for £1 on 200 to 1 or £2, I don't think many teams are going to let you down there.
Sorry, just quickly, did you know that the Texans are favourites to win that game?
Yeah, I've got the Texans to win. The Colts can't run the ball. It's only on Richardson. So I actually think kind of the opposite in terms of they're going to see that coming.
They've got Zach Moss back this week, haven't they?
Oh, yeah. The difference maker.
Yeah. or Anthony Richardson. Just let him be the running back.
Yeah. And then the final one was the I'm not surprised that this has obviously been thrown up by someone's requested this on Sky, but is Mahomes, Burrow, and Herbert 300 plus passing yards and 3 touchdowns each. I think Mahomes could do it. I'm not sold on Burrow because I don't. Yeah, I mean they didn't look great last week, but it doesn't surprise me that. Well, for those 3 players to be there 100 to 1, we've seen weeks where all 3 of them have done that. I think it just speaks volumes to the matchups that they're in. That's at 100 to 1.
Adam, are you putting £1 on any of them, and which one is your favourite of them?
You've got to put £1 on one. Come on.
Do I really have to?
Yeah.
If I had to put £1 on any of them, I'd probably go on the quarterbacks just because I know that the 3 quarterbacks have the potential to do it. But I'd be very surprised if Joe Burrow did it against that Ravens defense.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a backhanded way of saying that one. But yeah.
I actually might have £1 on the Russian touchdown one.
I'm in on that one.
The fun of it. It looks exciting. Be fun to watch on Red Zone. That will keep you on your toes. I will have to say, obviously, we didn't speak about all the games, but definitely go and check out the odds of teams that were really bad last week that could show up. So I think I like looking at the odds of the Giants covering the spread, and the Bears as well. I think those are two that people are the oppositions that they're going up against. I think you probably want to maybe look at those as bounce backs. Sky, what are you laughing for?
I was laughing because I saw Adam laughing because you said about the Giants being bad. It's like this was your moment to accept that week 1 is now done. You're moving on, and you've got the mighty Arizona. So obviously, tough game.
I think the Giants will win. I'm not sure about the price though. They're quite favoured to win. They're 4-point favourites.
They've got to win against
the Bears.
Tankerzona.
I mean, if the play calling actually decide that they want to trust Justin Fields, then yeah. But if they're going to do what they did last week, then no.
Tampa defense did look good last week, but yeah,
I like them. I like them to win that one. Yeah, so that's all we've got time for. Hopefully, we have some winners on our trebles this week. Best of luck to all your teams. We'll be back next week to go through week 3. But till then, thanks for joining me, and goodbye.